Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you read through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer Fins fans' questions. A lot to talk about today's show. Very excited about it. It's a great time to be a Dolphins fan for sure. They've definitely rectified this season for sure. Very excited to talk about tons of stuff we have to talk about in today's show. But let's get into the news you need to know about. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins Will Fuller done for the year. The Dolphins don't expect to see wide receiver Will Fuller return this season, according to head coach Brian Flores. Fuller, who has been out with a broken finger since early October, has suffered a setback in his recovery that will require even more rest. Now, this makes every Dolphins fan really mad. You know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that he only went to Miami because of Deshaun Watson, and then he was hesitant to come back because we did hit a rut. And maybe he just wanted to hang it up and collect his money and move on for whatever reason. I don't really believe that. I think he definitely, if he could have played, he would. He has multiple broken fingers in his hand. If anybody has sustained a hand injury, it is no joke. And I guarantee you cannot grip a football. For sure. Cannot grip a football. So, I don't know. I don't really believe in any of that stuff. It's unfortunate. You know, the Dolphins knew what risks they were taking with him. He's had a terrible history with injuries. And it unfortunately just didn't work out for them. Now, will he go on to just play an entire season with someone else? Probably. But I think the Dolphins did the right thing. They had the right intentions in mind. I would have done the same thing if I was in their shoes. Obviously, they can't see the future. But the Dolphins needed playmakers, especially coming off the season they were coming off of. They still do, unfortunately, need playmakers. Sorry if you guys hear the pugs in the background. They're insane. But, they still need playmakers. They needed playmakers for their young quarterback. They tried to do that. It didn't work out. Will Fuller is a great receiver when he's healthy. Very talented. Probably the best, top three deep threat in the league. Some of the games that he's had are crazy when you look at the numbers. And not something normal receivers can do, that's for sure. So I liked what they did. Obviously, they're not going to bring him back. One thing that this team needs to do is get players that are dependable and that they can rely on the offensive side of the ball, because Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and even Will Fuller have obviously all been very inconsistent in staying on the field, whether that's in their play, inconsistent with their play, or inconsistent which is being hurt. They need to find dependable playmakers that are consistent for Tua going forward. Not to mention the fact that, the O-line's playing much better than it has been early in the year, but their best performances have come against weaker fronts. So they just need to do a lot of work offensively because, again, I think obviously Tua isn't working with a lot, and he deserves better. And I'm excited to see what he can do with better players. And even in the Jets game this past weekend, we really struggled to get off man coverage. It's unacceptable, to have a game like that against the secondary that's as young as they are and as inexperienced and as they're not that talented. And all they really did was play man coverage and blitz. They played some quarters coverage, like Tua mentioned in his press conference, but mainly on like money downs, they played man coverage. So they have to get some, and again, that's why Waddle was so big, is because he is consistent and he can get off man coverage on a consistent basis. But they have to get playmakers to help this offense go in the backfield and at the receiver position, and obviously on the offensive line. This entire offseason better be focused on the offensive side of the football. And again, Will Fuller didn't work out. I'm sure he'll go somewhere else and play an entire year. It doesn't really matter. It just didn't work here in Miami. And they had to do what they had to do, but in the end, it really didn't work out. In terms of his contract, the Fins inked him to a 1-year, $10 million deal. His season will end with a grand total of 4 catches for 26 yards in 2 games, which is crazy. And he doesn't have any dead cap money. So it was pretty much a one-and-done deal. It wasn't a bad contract. So I'm sure, everything kind of works out with that, and it's going to be a pretty easy separation. And he had a lot of incentives, too, that he didn't that he didn't reach because obviously he didn't play. So let's move on to the next news story. It sucks talking about Will Fuller because he could have been a great piece to the offense. The Dolphins draft order, in case you were wondering, this is really quick. They currently have the 21st pick in the draft, in case you were wondering. Which hopefully will go towards the offensive side of the football. Okay, so let's move on. What else? Oh yeah, this is another quick one. The Dolphins have promoted Jalen Waddle and Javon Holland from the COVID-19 list. Javon Holland, I think he may have missed Wednesday's practice, which is interesting. I'm not quite sure about that. That information is still coming out as of doing this podcast, so you guys can look that up. But I'm pretty sure it looks like he'll play on Monday, which is great news. And obviously, I fully expect Waddle, at least as of right now, he should. It's good to have both of those players back because they're such big pieces, and they're present, especially Waddle's presence. His absence was felt on Sunday for sure. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins promote Duke Johnson. The Dolphins are set to promote running back Duke Johnson to their active roster. This is great news. Very surprised of how well he played, and he obviously deserves it. And I mean, and another thing is that I want to mention here is when we look at the rushing stats here, Duke Johnson had 22 carries for 107 yards, almost a 5 yards a carry average with 2 touchdowns. We haven't seen a performance like that in a while. And even when you look at Gaskin's stats, 10 carries for 54 yards, that's not insane. But his average was almost 5.5 a carry. The offensive line dominated up front in this game, in the run game especially. To mention a couple names, Eichenberg, Hunt, Dieter, those three played great in the run game the entire game. They were really good, and most of our big runs were up the middle. And I think the return of Michael Dieter and him playing as well as he has with Robert Hunt and Dieter on that same side of the offensive line is going to be huge for the run game moving forward, because those two are good players on the offensive line. And it allows them, and as you saw in the Jets game, to have a more consistent running game. So as long as those two stay healthy, and if Eichenberg, I'm not even talking about pass protection, can continue to kind of trend in that direction, that's huge for this team. Austin Jackson has played a lot better at guard, which is good. I just need him to stay a little bit more consistent. And I'm not ready to say this is the guard of the future for sure. I'm definitely not ready to say that, but at least he's playing better. I think I think the run game has a really bright future with the additions of Phillip Lindsay. If Duke Johnson can continue, the jump cuts, the vision, the decisiveness, all of the running with power. Even for a small back, he still runs with a lot of power, broke a lot of tackles, broke a lot of arm tackles. That's something that we haven't seen from the other backs on this team. And I think the main thing that's the difference, not to mention the fact that the interior of the offensive line is much better when it comes to run blocking, but out of all of the other backs on this team, Duke Johnson is the most natural runner. I really do believe that. I think he has the best vision by far on the team, and there were holes missed early in the year. Despite the poor play of the offensive line, there were still plays left out there because of the backs. It wasn't all the offensive line. Most of the time it was, but the running backs definitely have not looked good all year, and that was one of the better performances we've seen since Jay Ajayi, Lamar Miller, some Reggie Bush, some of the backs that we've had over the last 10 years. That's definitely, the notion. It reminded me a lot of the way he was running reminded me a lot of the game that Noshawn Moreno had before he tore his ACL against the Patriots. He just running hard, great vision, great jump cuts, breaking a ton of tackles. He's going to be huge in the passing game. And, he caught that screen, broke a couple tackles, made one really good cut. And I think the two things that make me excited about the rest of the season is the offensive line. I think is a lot better in the interior with Dieter and Hunt. And if Austin Jackson can continue to be consistent, that bodes well for them going forward. Same thing with Eichenberg. But I really do think for sure Dieter and Hunt will be that for sure for the rest of the year. And the additions of the running backs with Phillip Lindsay, Duke Johnson, and Myles Gaskin, who, by the way, Duke Johnson could be James White in this offense for sure. He very similar styles of play, and I'm excited about that too because he is such a good receiving back. So the offensive line the offense kind of got a little bit of a spark here. A little bit of, they got healthy at the right time. Not to mention the fact that they got really lucky with Duke Johnson and Phillip Lindsay. That adds more playmakers to the offense. It makes me really excited for the rest of the games in the schedule. And it's going to help Tua out a lot. So, yeah, good for Duke Johnson. Huge for Dolphins fans, obviously, especially if you're University of Miami fans. That was amazing. I think that's it for the news. I'm talking way too fast right now. I don't know why. I'm excited, guys. 6-game win streak. I think the last time we did that was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So, very excited about that. We had a big win streak last year as well. Trying to just making sure I didn't miss anything in the news. No, I don't think I did. And another thing I want to mention before we move on, in terms of getting talent late in the year, which has kind of been kind of crazy when you think about it, but Damon Arnett as well. Very excited to see what he can do. One thing that I did notice, it sucked because we had to play Nick Needham. He played a lot more safety in this game because of the absence of Holland. And I'm excited to see if Arnett can come along quicker, and if he's focused and he's not, if he kind of changed his ways and is really focused on football, putting him in the slot is going to be, because he's such a good run defender. He's such a good open field tackler. He fits the slot position to a T. He's so physical. He's a bigger body there. Like, this secondary, sky is the limit for this secondary, especially if Damon Arnett can clean up his off the field issues. So excited to see him as well, to see if he can make some strides to get into the starting lineup. All right, yeah, that's it for the news, guys. I think that's it for the news. So let's get into the Dolphins-Jets game and some observations that I made from that game that I want to talk about. Obviously, the Dolphins win 31-24, and honestly, I want to start on the defensive side of the football, and I really want to focus on Brian Flores, and I just want to really just tip my hat to him. And I've stuck by his side this even during the losing streak. I was like, he's still a really special defensive mind, and he's showing you that. And not to mention the fact that he's just a really good head coach. I mean, if you look, his November record is insane. His teams get, we saw that when his first year here. His teams get better as the year goes on, and that's something that Bill Belichick's Patriots teams have always done. As the year goes on, they get better. And that is such a big deal, guys. Like, how many coaches like Marvin Lewis, there's so many that it just falls apart in December and January. And the fact that he has that ability to make his team to be the best that they are during December and January and November, that's such a big attribute of his that alone should give him another year. And Stephen Ross shouldn't even think about firing this. Brian Flores is one of the best minds when it comes to a side of the football. Put him up there with Sean McVay, any of those guys. His defensive mindset, his game planning, everything about what he does on the defense side of the ball is innovative. It's really smart. It's hard work. You can tell a lot of work goes into the game plan every single week. It's game plan specific. Even though we show some of the same fronts, we really do focus on taking what you want to do away. We saw that in the Ravens game. We saw that in a lot of the other games in the win streak as well. I really just love the way that he coaches, and I love the way that his defenses play. It's an aggressive style, which I love, and it's really fun to watch. And I can't say enough about Brian. He's by far my favorite coach of the last 10 years that we've had. Between, obviously, it's not that hard to do that with people like Philbin and Adam Gase, but he's by far the best one we've had in a long time. And I can't say enough about his ability to coach the defensive side of the football, and especially just confusing quarterbacks in the back end, and putting people in the right places. I think the best word to describe what Brian brings to the franchise and to the team itself is unique. If you look at the other coaches, especially the last two that we've had with Gase and Philbin, they didn't bring anything unique to the team or to the organization. They weren't great leaders. They didn't bring anything schematically great to the franchise. Brian is a great leader. His teams get better as the year goes on, and he has a really special scheme, and he's a great game planner. Those are all unique things, and those are things that you look for in head coaches that you just can't find. Anybody could have done what Philbin and Gase did coming through here. Gase got lucky his first year. Philbin was it was a dumpster fire. You want to talk about his teams getting worse as the year goes on, okay? None of them brought anything unique. You could get any coach from anywhere to do what they did. Brian is a unique coach. He brings unique things to the team and to the franchise. I think it would be insanely stupid, and I don't think it's even being discussed, to let him go. He just needs help on the offensive side of the football. I think those were his shortcomings and some of his regrets. I think if even he would probably have are on the offensive side of the football. I think the future is really bright though for the offensive side of the ball. I think he finally found his play caller in George Godsey. It wasn't pretty in the beginning of the year. Obviously, this is a first-year play caller. But as the year has gone on, it's been really good. It really has. Really good decision-making, good play calling, good game planning, really finding an identity and a rhythm to the offense for Tua. So I just really wanted to bring up Brian when talking about this game. And I really do think that they have found their play caller, which is going to be really going to add consistency to the franchise and consistency to the offense and consistency for the players. I think all that they need to do is just get more playmaking and get, obviously, a more consistent front on the offensive line. And I think that the sky is the limit. And in terms of some other things that I want to talk about in this game that I noticed, I guess we should definitely. I mean, Duke Johnson was phenomenal. I already talked about in this video already, just his ability to run the football. He's really just he was born to play the running back position. His vision, he runs with, like I said, power. He makes decisive decisions. He makes a cut. That's it. He doesn't dance around. He just really has a really good feel for the game. So I can't say enough about Duke Johnson, who, again, I'll mention his stat line: 22 carries, 107 yards, and almost a 5 yards per carry average. So, look, I want to talk about, and we already, I think we already glossed over it, just the team's struggles to make plays when you're in one-on-one situations with the defensive backs of the opposite team. This team really struggled against man coverage in this game. And even Devontae Parker did. He had that nice deep corner out, but there wasn't any separation on that play. It was just a phenomenal throw. The slant route was probably the most separation he had all day. Bryce Hall was all over him the entire game. I mean, and there were corners that were, had tight man-to-man coverage on Devontae Parker that had no business having tight coverage on Devontae Parker. So even Devontae Parker really struggled to get off man coverage in this game. Mike Gesicki, God bless this man. He had a nice corner out in man coverage once, but he struggled in this game to get off man coverage as well. His game is similar to Devontae Parker's. It is 50-50 ball, body position type stuff. It's not a lot of separation. And, teams can take advantage of that. And they did in this game. I mean, even the targets that Tua had to Gesicki, there was no separation at all. And that led to batted balls and not interceptions, I would say. But Tua was trying to make some of those tight throws, and there was just not a lot of separation there. So we have to get more playmakers in this offense. I would have liked to have seen, Isaiah Ford, he got more separation than pretty much anybody did this entire game on his routes. I mean, even his inside fade that he caught on third down, honestly, he didn't even have separation on that play. If he was a better receiver, that might have gone for a touchdown. But, I don't even understand how he was blanketed as much as he was on that play. But that just goes to show you how badly this team needs playmakers. And it is a big it was a big problem in this game. And thank God the run game got going. And we could kind of do a little. And, Tua had to scramble a lot in this game. He was really good. But just, it was very disappointing to see players like Devontae Parker and Gesicki not take advantage of a secondary that doesn't have a lot there. And it was very frustrating to watch. And like I said, if you guys go back and watch the game, and maybe just watch the highlights of the game, there was a play where Devontae Parker was just blanketed on like a little comeback or a curl route. And it's like, dude, that should never happen. Okay? You're too good of a receiver to have that happen. And I don't know. It just was frustrating to watch. Just not a lot of separation all day. That was something that I noticed in this game. And then, so let's get to Tua now. I did love the play calling, though. I really loved some of the, when George found something, he really stuck with it. He kind of took advantage of the Jets up the middle. And it really, hats off to Michael Dieter and Robert Hunt in this game to really kind of, they really did a really good job in run blocking in this game. But, so I thought he did a fantastic job calling the plays. I thought the game plan was awesome. But let's talk about Tua. Tua was 16 of 27, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Let's talk about the 2 interceptions. The first one was I have no idea what happened on that play. And, it reminded me a lot of the pick he had against the Jets, by the way, was by the same guy, Ashton Davis, the last time they played him. But the excuse there, I was like, okay, it's in the Meadowlands. It's getting winter time, fall time. It's not perfect conditions to throw the football. It just looked like he lost control of the play on a deep crossing route. And then you go back to the Jags game in London. Very similar. He kind of just lost control of the ball. And it was kind of looked like it was a bad interception. And same thing happened in this game. He just lost control of it, and it just didn't go where he wanted it to. At least I assume that's what happened, because it was it was a really bad interception. He had Devontae Parker open. He just missed him. I'm not sure if he was trying to target Parker. To me, and I wish they would have asked him this, did you just lose control of the ball? Or was it just a bad read? And nobody really asked him that in the press conference. But the second interception was, honestly, it was just, one, it was a terrible route by Hunter Long. And I'm not trying to make excuses for Tua, because honestly, the first pick that should never be an interception. That was a really bad throw. The second one, it was just a great play by the defensive back, and it was just a really bad route. Listen, honest to God, the tight end is much bigger than him, than the corner. It's a pretty safe throw, usually. You would think so, but it was a bad route, and it wasn't really a late read. It was just a really nice play by the defensive back. And it should have been pretty much routine pitch and catch, but it obviously ended up into a pick six. I don't really blame Tua for that, and great response by Tua to go down the field, and to take the lead again. But yeah, he's had a few throws this year that it's just a little odd. It's like, usually he makes that throw, especially the one in this game, his first pick. Like he makes that throw all the time, and I don't understand what happened. And same thing in the Jags game. And in the other Jets game, it's like those are his worst throws of the year. Although all of his other interceptions are just young mistakes, to be honest with you. A lot of them were just, and I've seen some people bring up the underthrow to Albert Wilson. He had a lot of pressure in his face. That happens to every quarterback in the league. That to me that Tua can make that throw if he's got a clean pocket every single time. And Albert Wilson, let me tell you something about Albert Wilson. He's just, I don't know what happened to Albert Wilson, but staying on the topic of Tua, I thought he actually played. It was an up and down game for sure. It was a roller coaster ride. It really was. But he kind of, when he got his feet under him, it was really good. He made a lot of really great throws in this game. And that's, I guess, why it's best described as a roller coaster ride, because he made some really nice throws in this game. The deep corner out to Devontae Parker, phenomenal throw, no separation. Devontae was basically double teamed, put the ball where only it could have been put. And, that's a great example of, great quarterbacks put the ball where they want it to be. They have great command and control of the ball. That was a great example of that. He had great command. He put the ball exactly where he wanted to be. It was a really tough throw down the field, and that was a franchise quarterback throw. Third down, and I think it was third down and 3 or 4, the inside fade to Isaiah Ford. Perfect throw, perfect timing on it, great touch, and it was a beautiful throw by Tua. That's a franchise quarterback throw. The 3rd and 9, phenomenal throw to win the game. He had pressure in his face. Again, we let someone free on a blitz. which has been very common this year. He had John Franklin Myers in his face, who's a very big defensive back or defensive lineman, throws it around him, touchdown, the Dolphins win the game. So, and obviously he had a lot of really nice scrambles in this game. His pocket presence was phenomenal. So it was a really up and down game for him, but he made some really great throws, and some of my favorite throws of his career so far. Like that deep corner out was money. The inside fade. One thing that Tua has been since he's been the starting quarterback this year, his third down efficiency is really good, and it hasn't been on third and shorts a lot. A lot of them have been third and long, and if you look at the numbers, we're actually not bad on third downs. And a lot of that is because of Tua. And again, in this game, those throws that he made, that was tight coverage, guys. That was really tight coverage. And it was like that for the entire game. And he had to make franchise quarterback throws, and he did. And it honestly just made me more confident in Tua. And I know people are going to say, well, he threw the pick six and all that stuff. And I don't want to sound like a fanboy at all. But those throws just make me, I'm like, dude, he has it to where we just get him better players, a better offensive line. I really do believe he is a franchise quarterback, and he showed that in this game. Dude, there weren't, like I said, and I'll say it again, there weren't a lot of people open at all. He missed one dude on the third. It was a third and goal. They called a blitz, and he just didn't see Gesicki. And the read really is 1 to 2. You go to the backside post, especially if it's a zero-man blitz. He just didn't see it. Gesicki it should have been pretty much an easy touchdown. He didn't see it. That was pretty much it for the rest of the game. That's the only thing that he really missed. And obviously the pick that he, for whatever reason, I don't know what happened on that play, but he lost control of the ball or whatever happened. I'm not sure. But in terms of misreads, he didn't miss a lot because it was pretty much plastered the entire game. So he had to make a lot of tough throws, and he did. But one thing I will say about Tua's game that I have noticed, and it is really very similar to Russell Wilson and, Drew Brees to a certain extent, they do miss reads over the middle. And, Tua's had a few of those this year. I could probably make a compilation of, not a compilation, it'd be like a 2-minute clip of like, okay, he missed this guy over the middle, or, he missed, like I said just 2 seconds ago, he missed Gesicki over the middle on the zero-man blitz. That one, I think he could definitely see him. He just didn't look there. But one of the things that Tua definitely needs to get better at is just over the middle of the field. And I think he can, and I think he will get better at that. But that is, I think, one weakness of his game that smaller quarterbacks tend to have, even like Kyler Murray and some of those players. But he doesn't consistently do it. There's just a few reads a game where it's like, wish we could have had that or this. And I wouldn't say like not a few reads a game, but a few reads this year, I should say, over the middle that he could do a little bit better of a job of. But other than that, he just made a lot of big-time throws in this game. And I don't want to keep talking and repeating myself, but I just really was, it just makes me feel more comfortable with him being the quarterback for the future. Because I think Tua is a special player, and I think he just needs help. And, again, if you look at the numbers, when Tua's on the field, we're a much better team offensively. So, and he's been super efficient. Dude, and again, I just want to say this one more time, he made big time throws in this game when the entire game there was not a lot to take advantage of, because we just, we just couldn't get off man coverage. And I want to say this before I move on too. It's not like Tua can't see over the middle of the field. He's taken advantage of some of his bigger plays have been over the middle of the field. I think I've noticed that about his game, and I think that's the worst thing about his game this year has been that, and that's pretty much it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to bring this up before we move on. It's crazy we only punted 3 times in that game. It feels like we punted a lot more than that. I guess Small offense was pretty efficient. We stayed out of third down for the most part. We were almost 50-50 on third down, which isn't bad. We were 5 for 12. We had 23 first downs, but Tua's been pretty good on third down for this entire year. Almost 50 percentage conversion rate is pretty good. All right, this is the last thing I want to say before we answer fans' questions here. I'm excited to see what you guys, and I'm sure there's gonna be some interesting. And I'm excited to see what you guys say about Tua, and stuff like that. But I already said that. But anyway, what was I gonna say? I literally just lost my train of thought. I'm excited to see the offense for the rest of the year because I do think they're getting better, especially up front on the offensive side on the offensive line, which is a miracle. And they're gonna have a real test against the Saints, which has a really good veteran front that's big and physical. So I'm excited to see what they can do against it. Because if they can run the ball on the Saints, then they can run the ball on anybody in the NFL. So if they somehow find success against the Saints, that's gonna bode really well for them for the rest of the year. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see that. I cannot wait to see Tua play on Monday Night Football. He's really gonna have a chance, especially if he has a great game, to shut a lot of people up in the national media. So that's gonna be really fun. So let's get into the fan Q&A. This first question comes from JagPack18. He says, this game was way too close. Glad to see the running game come through on a day where Tua was struggling. I don't necessarily think Tua was struggling. I think it was really just the receiver core was not good on Sunday. I think that was the worst part of the offense on the day. We cannot get locked up in man-to-man coverage against those players. Devontae Parker is a veteran in this league. He has to play better. He was single coverage most of the game with Bryce Hall, and I can't remember the other corner for the Jets that was on him as well. And they really did, for the most part, get the better of him. And that just can't happen especially when you're Devontae Parker, who we expect more out of. And again, I think this to be honest with you, illustrates the fact that Devontae is a 2. And maybe he's a low-end 2, especially after the performance he had in this game. So the Dolphins really do need Jalen Waddle back. It sucks that we didn't see Kirk Merritt be activated in this game, because I would have liked to have seen that. And again, I think Isaiah Ford was pretty much the most consistent when it comes to getting separation. And one thing I want to add as well is Duke Johnson and his ability to run routes coming out of the backfield is going to be huge in some of these games, because they need more playmakers. This next question comes from, but yeah, Tua wasn't great. He had some head scratching. He had 2 head scratching plays, I guess you could say. Even though the pick six really didn't bother me that much, because it was just an all around bad offensive play. When you think about just and it was, I think, more a great defensive play than it was a bad read. This next question comes from SM. He says, do you think the Dolphins brass will draft a running back in the top 2 rounds, or do we continue with the status quo due to the success of players we got off the scrap heap? That's an interesting question. I don't know. Depending on how, I think Duke Johnson, if he can continue to play like that, he can do what James White does for the Patriots, because we have a similar offense to them, and I think he can kind of be that guy. So I think Duke Johnson has a chance. Myles Gaskin obviously has a chance to be here next year, but the Dolphins still have to look at the running back position, and I think at least in round 2, they will consider it. I'm not against going receiver in either one of those rounds, so it'll be interesting to see what the Dolphins do, because I do think they need another playmaker in the receiving core. Just watch the Jets game. That's all you have to know when it comes to this receiving core. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, Tua had his worst game of the season, but put together a wonderful bounce-back drive. Every time he threw a pick, what else do you think he can improve on? I think the main thing he can improve on is just making more reads over the middle. And I know people are going to point out, well, he's just short. It's not that. Because the Mike Gesicki one's a perfect example of that. It's like, I think one thing that he will get better at as he gets older and plays more in the league is pre-snap, like looking at, okay, this guy's going to be one-on-one, and Mike Gesicki's one of my best players when it comes to red zone, and if he's left one-on-one in the red zone, that has to be the read. Instead, he was looking at Matt Collins. So stuff like that, I think he just really pre-snap, knowing what he's going to get, where are his matchups that he likes, and taking advantage of that. And stuff over I think we can do a little bit more over the middle as well. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He said, should we bring back all of our coaches for next season? I believe they have shown a high ceiling and are improving. There's something to be said for stability. Absolutely, Casey. I think George has done a fantastic job, especially in this win streak, of crafting an identity with the short passing game and of this team. And now if we can get the run game going, that's even better. And it's going to help us be even more efficient in the short passing game, and kind of turn into what the New England Patriots do so well. This next question comes from Chris Z. He says, Skaggs, what is it about Tua's game that seemingly makes him struggle against man coverage? Meanwhile, he's very effective against zone coverage. The difference in his execution in both these situations is pretty night and day. This is a great point to bring up by Chris Z here. Because, and I'm not saying it is all the time, but his receivers are below average in man coverage. And we have to do better. Dude, if it isn't Waddle getting open on man coverage, who else is going to consistently do that? Devontae Parker has proven he can't do that. Mike Gesicki can't do that. That's not his game. So who's getting off man coverage? Albert Wilson's not getting off man coverage. Who's getting off man coverage? The fact that Devontae Parker struggled against Bryce Hall and the other Jets corners in one-on-one situations, to the point where Robert Saleh called a jailbreak blitz multiple times in this game, leaving him one-on-one on an island. Okay? So they have to get, and again, that's the Jets. That's not the top-end AFC teams, dude. That's the Jets that they struggle to getting off man coverage on. So it has a lot more, in my opinion, for sure, has a lot more to do with this offense and its playmaking ability than it has anything to do with Tua. So I think, to answer your question, Chris, and it's a great question, and again, it shows you in zone coverage, and again, this is where a lot of quarterbacks struggle. It's nice that he excels in that area because that shows off his intelligence. That's where that comes in. Man coverage is man coverage. Find who's not double teamed, and they better win. That's man coverage. So, zone is a lot more complicated. So it's nice that he has got that part down, and we just need to add playmaking, and that's pretty much it. And again, well, he's like, you could say, well, he needs to do a better job of throwing in tight windows. Well, he did do a great job of throwing in tight windows, and pretty much the entire game. He got a little too aggressive over the middle when there was that pass that was tipped up in the air that Ashton Davis almost intercepted again. He tried to fit it in a tight window, and Gesicki was blanketed. That dude might as well have been a sweater on him. Like, that's how much he was blanketed. So, they just need more playmakers. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, I think Tua definitely, like Devontae Parker, as a receiver. I think Tua definitely likes Devontae Parker as a receiver. Do you think we keep him next season? I mean, I could do either way on that one, to be honest with you. I honestly think the Dolphins need another guy to be more of a more consistent two, or a slot receiver, someone who can excel in the quick passing game. Because Devontae Parker, he doesn't really excel in the quick passing game. He struggles to get open in man coverage. We've seen that. We need people who can get separation, and he just struggles to do that. So, just I honestly, I really don't care what happens. Like, if Devontae Parker leaves, it's like, okay, he can make splash big time plays, but it's like, at the same time, dude, it's like, I need more consistency. So whatever they decided to do with the Devontae Parker, as long as they continue, and again, they did do that this offseason where, like, we still added Will Fuller even though we had Devontae Parker. So hopefully they do that again, and maybe they do that through the draft, or maybe they do it through free agency. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know what the free agent market looks like at the receiver side, in the receiver market looks like. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, what lineman do you like in this year's draft, whether it's in the second round or later? I haven't really watched enough or looked into the offensive line that much. I mean, I know the Alabama tackle is fantastic. I can't remember his name right now, but the Dolphins probably won't sniff him because obviously they're picking 21 right now. But I would have to look into it a little bit more. This next question comes from Jack Pack 18. He says, to think they could have had Jonathan Taylor instead of Igbenogany, that man is taking Indy to the playoffs by himself. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, I think, especially that year, was my favorite back. And yeah, there's been a lot of players that have looked like in the past, like in the later rounds, that I wanted the Dolphins to pick and have become great. Like Cooper Kupp is another one that I was like, dude, if we just got Cooper Kupp, and look at the dude now. I mean, the dude is fantastic. And Jonathan Taylor is definitely on that list for sure. This next question comes from J. Rose. He says, is Tua's bad play versus the Jets a fluke? P.S. O-line played great today. Yes, the O-line played fantastic today. No, I mean, I think Robert Saleh is the biggest issue. It's like he just took advantage of, especially not having Waddle, and that we just have to get more playmaking, dude. We need more playmakers on the offense side of the ball. This next question comes from Jay Rose, or we just answered that question. I don't know if I said that question came from Jay Rose. This next question comes from SM. He says, if the Dolphins finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs, do we bring back Coach Flo? Of course. This next question comes from Mark. He says, why is it easy to see Tua has improved? Why is he okay, but not easy to see when he's inconsistent? Deshaun Watson wasn't a subject because Tua sucked. It was because he's injury prone and inconsistent. What say you, or is it once again the line? No, it wasn't the Lions' fault. And I know you're probably going to be, literally, I don't know what else to say to everybody here, but these playmakers aren't it, and they need to improve on that. And I think we can all agree with that. But I would not describe Tua as inconsistent. I think he's been the most consistent definitely one of the more consistent people on the offense. That's for sure. This was not a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but he still had, and again, I guess that's what I'm saying, inconsistent. I don't know, man. I feel like he's been one of the more bright spots on the offense and one of the more consistent pieces to the offense. But what is the question? Injury prone. Yeah, he missed time this year. He didn't really miss time last year. I kind of disagree. I don't disagree with you, Mark. I guess I do agree that he was inconsistent, but not to the point where it was like, okay, yeah, he threw the pick six. But after that, those were really his only mistakes in the game. Those are big mistakes, but those are really only his mistakes in the entire game. And as I say, it sounds stupid because I threw a pick in and pick six, but he did a great job of bouncing back from those plays. This next question comes from, and again, Mark, we're just going to agree to disagree on the whole. Like, I really do think a lot of it is because of the shortcomings of the receiving core and the offensive line. This next question comes from Richard. He says, like I always say, Isaiah Ford makes 2 or 3 key catches a game. I hope the Dolphins are bringing him back next season. The Dolphins should get rid of Preston Williams and Malcolm Brown. What about Marcus Mariota as a backup? Yeah, that could be interesting. That would be a great player to have, especially as a backup. And, Isaiah Ford is good. Yeah, they definitely need to, if they bring him back, I'm not mad at that, but they definitely need to improve in that area. This next question comes from SM. He says, Robert Quinn has 16 sacks. Did we get rid of him too soon? No. Robert Quinn has he's a stat stuffer. That's what I like to call it. It's like, dude, they've been down a lot this year, and people pass a lot in the NFL now. That's the reason that man has 16 sacks. Not saying that 16 sacks is easy to get, but the dude is literally a one-dimensional player. This next question comes from, I think, did we answer this question already? Yes, we answered this question. This question comes from Brandon. He says, Skaggs, by golly, we have a running back. How dangerous can we be if we pair Lindsey with Johnson? Pretty dangerous. And I think I'm more excited about Duke Johnson because of what he can do in the pass game as well. This next question comes from Brandon again. He says, what do you think we have to do to beat the Saints? What do I think? We have to run the ball. And we have to get off man coverage because that's all the Saints do is play man coverage. So thank God Waddle's coming back in this game. And the one thing we definitely have to do is pass protect. I'm honestly we have to score. Really defensively, I think they're going to continue to be consistent and great. It's really just focusing on the offensive side of the ball, and we have to get more than 17 in this game. I really do believe that. Like 17-20, I think, is what wins us this game. And it's going to be tough because the Saints defense is a seasoned group. It's an older group. A lot of their best players have been in the league a while, and they're still really good players. So it's going to be tough. But the Dolphins definitely can do it. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, Tua's completion percentage is almost 70%. Do you think us as fans only wanted him out because the better quarterback was available, which is why we as fans complain about Tua even though he's played good football? I don't really know. I mean, I think no, because we didn't know that Tua, and Tua is really trending in the right direction. But I don't know. I feel like actually watching him play and giving him a chance, like I think he's proven enough to me that he is the future of the team. Because I don't really know what Deshaun Watson would have done differently in that Jets game. Maybe he doesn't throw those picks, maybe. But either way, we would still win that game, and either way, we would have struggled to get off man coverage. Maybe he scrambles around. The same thing that Tua did. Tua scrambled around and picked up yards. I just don't know what he would have changed throughout this year, honestly. I think those struggles still happen. And again, people bring up, the dude still only won 4 games last year. A bad roster, having bad stuff on your roster is having bad stuff on your roster. Deshaun Watson wasn't going to fix that. And I would rather go down to the Tua road where we have a lot of our first-round picks and we have the cap space and just build a really good team around Tua, because I think he's proven that he is a franchise quarterback moving forward. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next one.